I went straight from school to Abbey Road as a trainee in 1965. I was there for 3 years, during which time I did in fact do some Beatles sessions. As an assistant, I have to point out, I did do, I don't know, half a dozen sessions or so with them. And many other notable people I worked with. Pink Floyd's first album was recorded while I was there. I remember that quite distinctly, people trying to fly around the studio, but we won't go into that too much. and a schoolboy favourite of mine was the Shadows. Anyhow, so many things. Spike Milligan, classical music, military bands, you name it. Good place to cut your teeth. And I left there in 68 and went to Olympic Studios. I was assisted on some Rolling Stone sessions. Jimi Hendrix, first Led Zeppelin album was done at the same time. Jesus Christ Superstar, and that's to name a few. In '82, I was offered the job of sort of studio manager, chief engineer at Livingston Studios, where I've sort of been associated with in various guises since. Over the years there, I've done all sorts of things, but I suppose the most famous things would be REM. I did a bit with 10,000 Maniacs back in the 80s. Everything But the Girl, did a whole series of albums with them, including the one that had Missing on it. In the sort of mid-90s, I got introduced to Nick Gold, and this whole sort of world music thing with Kiba and Marley started off. And the first thing I did with him and with Ry Cooder was Buena Vista Social Club, which went on to become an enormous hit, success, millions. The overabiding memory of them was a very innovative technologically, and they would allow Jeff Emerick to be, they would break all the boundaries and rules of Abbey Road, which had all these daft rules that you couldn't do this and you couldn't do that. And so it was the beginning of the studio being used as a tool, as a creative tool, rather than as just something to record what was happening in the studio. I think it's probably because I've always liked to record things so as they sound how people think they sound live. It's a bit larger than life, but it still sounds like what it was that they were doing out in the studio. And I've always enjoyed working with people who want to go out there and play it in the studio rather than, I've never been able to enjoy making records in bits. Right, well, it goes back a long time. First SSL was 1985 when I was when I was the studio manager at Livingston Studios. I'd been there about 3 years. Studio come on nicely, was doing well, and we wanted to, carry on the process. And SSL was really, that was the sort of peak of its, when it first started to happen. I've always liked SSLs, I feel very comfortable and know them really well. I mean, there are other good consoles, but they just do what I want for me. I think one of the things is, because I tend to like doing things fairly cleanly, the fact the SSL just gives a bit of oomph to things, there is a bit of dirt, I would say. I hope they don't take that as an insult, it's a compliment. I find it really suits my style, because it just adds to what I rather perhaps could end up being a little pretty recording. It's just a bit more edge. Well, I was aware of X-Rax. I wasn't actually aware of the Matrix, so I went online, had a look, and had a quick look, and I thought, well, maybe this could be the answer to what I need, together with some X-Rax. Again, I was aware of them, and I knew they made a version of it with a black knob EQ and the E-series compressors, which is what I would want. I thought the combination of the two, I could put together a home mixing studio. When I had a demonstration of it, and I did look at the AWS when I was there, and I just thought, well, you get all the circuitry, you get all the basic sound, and with the X-Rax, you've got plenty of EQ. I could add a few more if I wanted to. I could get another X-Rack if I wanted to. I mean, I've got it set up primarily it's a 16-channel. I look at it this way: it's a 16-channel analog console. So obviously you have to, most things you have to, within Pro Tools, mix things together. So I look at Pro Tools as sub-mixers. It isn't really just 16 faders, it's 16 faders analog, automated, but there is another 16 inputs on a knob which you can use. So some things you could come in on that. The other appeal to me about it was it is a controller. And although I'm okay with Pro Tools, I'm by no means blinding on it, you know. And I think I just felt that I would feel more comfortable running Pro Tools, a lot of Pro Tools off a controller, because I've done that in other studios where I've got faders and buttons and things, than I will off a mouse. So that was the other motivation, that it combines both really. The other thing is they've both got, both these, all the SSL stuff has got recall on it, a simple recall system, which is also very useful, because obviously if you're working a lot in analog, you need to be able to do that so you can get back to mixes quickly. They're familiar, homely pieces of equipment. You know, the EQ and the compressors are both what I'm used, pretty close to what I'm used to off an E-series board, which is what I like. There are particular things about the black knob EQ that reasons I like it, and they are predominantly the top and bottom ranges, the bass and top, if you like, have a bell curve, which is pretty sharp. So, for instance, if you want to put a bit of serious bottom on something like a bass drum or a bass, you can without it muddying the rest of the sound up too much, which is quite important. But without having to use digital EQ, which you can do the same thing with, which is very good at that, but it doesn't add any artifacts to it, so it's a bit sort of boring. And it's the same at the top. If you want a bit of air and tiz, it's really good at that, and I use it a lot, and I miss it when I haven't got it on other consoles. So that's the main reason for the EQ. It's incredibly flexible. I mean, I haven't come across anything that I think it ought to have done that it doesn't do, which I think is a real credit to whoever spec'd it and designed it. It sounds good, you know. It sounds like I hoped. And it doesn't sound like an E series. I suppose it's a bit closer to what a J or a K would be. It's straight. It's a bit cleaner than an E, but it, you know, with the plug-in, not plug-in, with the patchable EQ and everything, the compressors, it does a really good job. It's the ability to work without much compromise in terms of facilities and equipment, but at home in this wonderful place where I live, it is really good to be able to, if you sit here and sometimes, you know, and you get stuck with something and you're just sort of a bit sick with it, and so you can get up, go outside for an hour, have a walk around, mow the lawn, whatever, go for a walk, go to the pub, and it's just wonderful, and then come back and work when you feel like it. I think that sort of freedom is brilliant, and I don't have to travel or stay in hotels or anything, but without feeling that I'm making substandard records. That's the best thing. You know, I feel I've got the equipment I need.